Napoleon Bonaparte was one of the greatest conquerors and most influential people in all of European history. Out of the 60 battles he fought in, he only felt defeat in 7 of them, most of those occurring near the end of his career. Napoleon was known as a tactical genius, able to memorize complete maps, recall specific events in great detail, and remember the names of over 10,000 people. His ability to remember seemingly every piece of information presented to him no doubt played a dramatic role in his successful career and quick rise to power as the Emperor of France. But how exactly did he do it? Is it possible to replicate his memorization skills? Or was he just gifted? Today, we have vast amounts of information in letters, written about or by Napoleon himself, and are now able to see exactly how he went about remembering names, maps, and anything else he deemed necessary to memorize. I will be going over his exact technique which anyone can do, and walk you through the steps Napoleon used to cement things into his memory. So sit back, relax, and let's take a dive into the mind of Napoleon. Napoleon's technique is one that he very likely didn't invent, but instead learned about while studying other great leaders as a child, such as Julius Caesar, who famously memorized his officers' names so he could call them out during the battle. It was then through trial and error that Napoleon perfected the technique to his liking. The technique Napoleon used consists of 3 steps. First is creating a mental association to what you're trying to remember. In this video, we're going to use a person's name as the example. Step 2 is storing the mental association in a specific place in your mind, which I will clarify exactly what that means later. And lastly, recalling the mental association in the future when you need to use it. Taking a look at the first step, what is a mental association exactly? Put simply, it's an image or action that you can associate to what you're trying to remember. When Napoleon met someone new for the first time, he would take careful notice of the person's features, expressions, and general appearance to try and associate their name with their image. The more unusual the mental association, the easier it is to remember the name. So for example, if we have this person here, named Joe, and they're quite a bit shorter than you, your mental association could be Little Boy Joe, which is quite an odd or funny nickname that you'll be less likely to forget. On the occasions Napoleon needed to remember the name of someone really important, or he was struggling to come up with a mental association for them, he would take the extra steps to write their name on a piece of paper, concentrate on it for a few seconds, and then tear the paper up or burn it. This further reinforced the unusual mental association and engraved it more into his mind. After creating a mental association, Napoleon needed to store it somewhere in his brain. To do this, he thought of something that could literally hold all of his thoughts: an imaginary cupboard. Now bear with me here as I explain this. Each drawer of the imaginary cupboard in Napoleon's brain represented a different subject, like a drawer for maps, another for history, books, and people's names. Inside of each drawer were the mental associations relating to the subject and arranged in a very organized manner. Let me explain using our example. So let's say Napoleon was remembering Joe's name. After he came up with the mental association Little Boy Joe, he would open up the name drawer in his cupboard and try to find the best place to put it. Since Joe is short, it makes sense to put him near the front, so that way other taller people are not blocking him. So Napoleon would place the imagery of Little Boy Joe at the very front of the name drawer. He would also use other mental associations as context clues. So let's say Joe had an impeccable head of hair. Napoleon would place him at the front of the drawer, but position him directly next to Fred, who was completely bald. This would further reinforce the unusual mental association, making both Fred and Joe easier to recall later. Is this making sense so far? Well, the third step really ties it all together: recalling the mental association. Inside the drawers of Napoleon, it was like a painting, an imaginary world created. Everything was arranged in certain places for specific reasons. When he was trying to recall something, he would first open the drawer of the subject. Now, the mental association wouldn't always come quickly to him, and you would have to use logic to determine where in the drawer it may have been placed. But upon finding the general area of the mental association and seeing the other associations around it, he would be able to recall the image using these context clues. Napoleon was able to memorize nearly limitless amounts of information using this method. He was once quoted with saying,
"Various subjects were arranged in my head in a cupboard. When I want to interrupt one piece of work, I close the drawer in which it is, and I open another. The two pieces of business never get mixed up together, and never trouble or tire me. When I want to go to sleep, I close up all the drawers, and then I am ready to rest."
Do you think this played a role in Napoleon's success? Or were his methods for memory a bit excessive? Let us know in the comments below, as well as what ancient ruler you'd like to see next. Consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.